The Holy Gospel according to Mark. Glory to you, O Lord. As soon as Jesus and the disciples left the synagogue, they entered the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. Now Simon's mother-in-law was in bed with a fever, and they told him about her at once. He came and took her by the hand and lifted her up. Then the fever left her, and she began to serve them. That evening at sunset, they brought to him all who were sick or possessed with demons, and the whole city was gathered around the door. And he cured many who were sick with various diseases, and cast out many demons. And he would not permit the demons to speak, because they knew him. In the morning, while it was still very dark, he got up and went out to a deserted place, and there he prayed. And Simon and his companions hunted for him. When they found him, they said, "Everyone is searching for you." He answered, "Let us go on to the neighboring towns, so that I may proclaim the message there also, for that is what I came out to do." And he went throughout Galilee, proclaiming the message in their synagogues and casting out demons. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. She was sick in bed. It was a debilitating fever. The woman was removed from the enterprise of living, unable to do the things that living humans do. It was a death of sorts. When Jesus found out about her, he came to her. He initiated contact. He took her by the hand and he raised her. The translation we just read, "he lifted her up," doesn't adequately convey Mark's intentional description. Jesus raised her. She was raised. Raised has a deeper, richer meaning than lifted. Raised is the word used by the young man in the empty tomb. He said, "Jesus has been raised." This woman's death of sorts was followed by a resurrection of sorts. She was raised, fully healed, instantly restored. She got off her deathbed and got back to the business of living, doing the things that living humans do. She was brought back to life. This is one of 5 healing stories in Mark's gospel narrative in which that word raised is used. Greek, agero. It's too bad that in the other 4, the NRSV translation doesn't reflect the use of that word in those 4 either. Jesus told the man who was paralyzed, "Rise up," agero. He told the man with the withered hand, "Rise and come closer." And when he went to the daughter of Jairus, who lay dead, he said to her, "Little girl, be raised." And the boy who suffered seizures, who couldn't speak or hear, he took by the hand and raised him up from his death-like state. It's about raising up. Jesus' enterprise of living was very much about resurrection, about restoration of life. This woman was raised and immediately got about the business of being alive. Now, there are plenty of preachers who might use this story to underscore their own patriarchal worldview of a woman's place subservient to men. And I'm sure there are plenty of women who bristle when they hear that story because it's been used for years and years to justify keeping women in their place. And I mention all that simply to acknowledge the history of this story's mistreatment and to lament that, but also so that we can get past it and hear the story for the message that Mark intended, which has nothing to do with a woman's place or a man's place, but everything to do with a disciple's place. Another look at the Greek gives us more insight. The word translated as serve is diakonos, the root of the modern word deacon. It's also the verb used a few verses earlier in the narrative when the angels waited on Jesus in his wilderness temptation. This woman raised up becomes the embodiment of the angel's service to Jesus. She's the first deacon, and she's the model of discipleship for those 4 brand new disciples: Simon, Andrew, James, and John. She even models Jesus' own service to the world. He says in chapter 10, I came not to serve, I said that wrong. I came not to be served, but to serve. Egero, same word. No, I said that wrong too. Diakonos. I came not to serve, but to be. What is the matter with me? Okay, yeah. Turn around, start over. I came not to serve, but to. Okay, Jesus came to serve. And he did so by raising her up, not because he was hungry and wanted her to make a meal, but because it is God's intention to heal, to raise the whole universe. That is Jesus' mission. And the church is his instrument of healing. The church is Jesus' instrument for resurrection. The kingdom of God, the reign of God, is here. The woman left her sickbed behind and served the people, not simply out of gratitude, but because of her compelling desire to be an agent of that universal healing. She and we are all part of it, participants in it. Jesus needs our enterprise. We all have a role in his ministry of resurrection. Jesus' ministry of raising from death to life is a ministry of vocational restoration, yes, and also about relational restoration. In those same 5 healing stories, there was restoration of relationship. The woman in her sickbed was a mother of a family. She was raised and restored to her family. The man who was paralyzed was raised and restored to his friends who carried him to see Jesus. Jesus restored the hand of the man in the synagogue, and with it, he restored the man's ability to participate fully in the life of the community. It happened within the synagogue. He restored the little girl to her grieving parents, and he restored the boy to his father. This death to life enterprise includes the healing of relationships. It includes the restoration of community. It includes the repair of the whole human family. This is the reign of God. This, you are it. This real estate that is created whenever you are gathered is the promised land of God's people. God's reign is in your proximity to each other. Your gathering. It's the oxygen you share. God's reign is the vibrations in the air that relay your collective sound. The promised land is in the words you say and sing together that hang on the air to create one common prayer that lifts up to God, interceding for the healing of the universe. This is the promised resurrection. When you walk past that font, you pass through the waters, and you die to self in order to be raised up, to become part of this whole. This enterprise of living in community, in relationship together, is the resurrection that we all share. Of course, those of us whose lives do still bear, lives and relationships still bear the death mask of disease and brokenness. To us, the idea of a ministry of resurrection can somehow feel amorphous, fuzzy, ethereal. We assign it a character of spiritual ambiguity in order to protect ourselves from our rational doubts. And yet we all long for it. We want there to be a resurrection. We long for the restoration of all things broken. And that longing is universal. The whole city came to the door of the house where Jesus was. Everyone is affected by the debilitating reality of lost life. Lost physical life, lost relational life, lost emotional life, lost spiritual life. No one is immune. Everyone is in need of being raised and having life restored. Messiah Lutheran Church, the whole city is at your door. The whole world waits on your doorstep. And to be sure, your faithful response to their need will take its toll. There will be times when you, like Jesus, as a body, will need to sneak away in the very darkness of the dawn in order to pray and maybe agonize, you yourself in need of healing. But then you'll be called back into service. Everyone is looking for you. You have the words of life. The woman was sick in bed with a debilitating fever. She was removed from the enterprise of living and unable to do all the things that living human beings do. It was a death of sorts. And when Jesus found out about her, he came to her. Jesus initiated contact. Jesus took her by the hand and he raised her up. You are gathered around his table. You receive him in your hand. You taste him on your lips. Be raised, Messiah. Be raised up to new life. Go throughout the cities and towns. Go into the neighborhoods and gathering places and proclaim the resurrection message. For that is what you are raised up to do.